Now we have the another session being conducted by Vice-Chancellor Professor Dr. Vikas Dhawan. The session title is Digitalization of Education in COVID Era. We welcome Professor Dr. Vikas Dhawan, sir. Warm welcome to you, sir.
Yeah, very good afternoon to all the esteemed members in the forum and people who have given their lectures in the morning as well as in the afternoon. I was not very fortunate to listen to all of them, but yes, since 1 hour I am listening to many thought processes that have been, really shared in a very fruitful way by different eminent people from different universities. I will like to extend my topic rather than from digitalization of education in COVID era to digitalization of education, because whether it be COVID or whether it be not COVID, digitalization is going to stay. I hope everybody agrees with that. This is no longer a myth or a story which we used to, narrate. And long back 10 years ago, I used to say that digitalization will come down the line and capacity building of the faculty will be needed. And most of the faculty members in the old school of thought professors used to say, hey, Dhawan, classroom teaching is the best, and one-to-one connect and you talk to your student, and that is the best way to give education. But this COVID has actually shattered every such thought and has, made a situation whereby we remember the old saying that necessity is the mother of all the, inventions. So I will really thank COVID in a way that it actually, taught us a lot and how to impart education through online medium. I will tell you a short story before I proceed further. And January 2020, when COVID was not there in India, I was already working on digitalization of education and, seeing those smart tools which are there in the market, which many people have not seen. You can even make your desktop, touch screen and then impart education to students. Such is the height of digitalization now, and such is the height of technology. So at that time, every day I used to, find out a new solution and talk to my peer group that we want to, digitalize the education and make this university India's first hybrid university, whereby attendance is not necessary. I still believe that digitalization of education is needed, because you calling in a student to teach him that Babur was father of Humayun and Humayun was father of Akbar makes no sense to me, because even a history professor will, go through the book and tell him that this was the case. So anything constructive imparted to the student, or anything which increases your knowledge, your intellectual level, your thought process, refines your process, should be there to call a student to the university or a, higher level education institute of any repute, whereby a student can have a hands-on experience, can, really sharpen his skills, become ready for the society, for the corporate. I normally say that education is not at all a tool to get good, a job or maybe a placement. It should not be the only one criteria. The higher education should also focus in, creating good citizens, creating a society which will love to live in. So digitalization in a way can help you in that way. You can learn history subjects through your LMS or through MOOCs, and you can really come down to the university at daytime and learn those skills. And we can tie hands with corporate, which we actually speak from the dais. And yes, COVID time has really taught us that if you want to really skill the student, then you need to join hands with the corporate world and digitalize your curriculums in a way that the corporate person need not to come down to your university. He can just deliver the lecture online through the this online platform. So I will go step and step how digitalization can affect education, how it can help us. I think underprivileged students who cannot go to different universities like Stanford and Oxford now can really access their courses online. This is one positive note of digitalization. You can access the library of any good professor, his lectures, his notes, or anything online. You can discuss with him any problem regarding that subject online. The platforms like Coursera, Udemy, they have spread like anything, and from that you can access any course from any university across the globe. So the globe has reduced to a university, I suppose. Globe has reduced to a town, and town to a university. That is what I say normally, because digitalization has helped us like that. Earlier, yeah, had it been in my age, when I was doing my graduation, I would have had to go to Stanford to really talk to that professor or access that program or a course. But digitalization nowadays is helping us. There are different tools that have to be there. The smart, I say ultra smart classroom, not smart room, because normally people say that I have got a projector, a multimedia equipment, and that is a smart room. No longer is that saying, it is a conventional need nowadays. The project, every room should have a projector. But ultra smart rooms are equipped with motion sensor cameras, those sensor enabled cameras which will react to your speech or to your movement. And there is a controller which accesses the movement of the camera. The professor can control. I can access my students online, offline, both at the same time in my classroom. That means the student have access to my class through the online mode also and through the offline mode also at the same time. I'm not talking of only online program. I'm developing such classrooms that whereby a student is in Singapore and is accessing my class, which I am taking here in SGT University at the same time to the students who are sitting in my class. So the rooms have to be so smart enough. So the digital extent has to be to that extent that the universities, this attendance will be only a criteria. I normally say that 30-40% attendance you can make it mandatory just to have an emotional connect with the student, because the student will come to your university and you will connect with the student in a way that yes, you will be able to realize his needs, and you will be able to know what problems he is facing, his grievances can be resolved. But as I gave you the history example, if that is the case that such subject is being taught on that particular day, student can say, okay sir, I will access your class to the online mode, and probably today I've got some work, and then I will be accessing your class in the online mode. As well as some students who are not smart enough and who think that yes, I can only learn through the offline mode, they can come to your class and you can deliver the lecture simultaneously to both the students. And we have to develop these classrooms in such a way that any question raised by an online student should be heard by the offline student sitting in your class also. I hope I am audible to everybody. So the point is that such will be the height of digitalization in coming times, in near months. And augmented reality, as the way it is, being adopted by the real world, we will have those virtual reality things in our classrooms also. So we have to be prepared in a way that we cannot, skip off from digitalization of education. I know many people are right now also, they're very reluctant. They're hoping that COVID will go and then we'll resort to the old classroom techniques and we'll be imparting lectures in that way. I must assure them that this is not going to go now, because it took many years for many technocrats to teach professors that you should use technology in India, especially because in abroad, as one of my colleagues was giving a lecture prior to me through the presentation, he was telling that they were using LMS as a mode, and probably in India we feel proud that we are using LMS, but abroad if you see, even the schools are using LMS. So the digitalization has been already adopted by the European countries and the West countries in a way that student is already equipped to use the LMS from his childhood age itself. But yes, in our country, we are still trying to adopt this, and many universities are still trying to adopt LMS and realize what is the difference between a ERP and LMS, whereas the LMS is a part of ERP only. And the teachers are falling short of skills to record their lectures and put their videos in the LMS, whereby they can, assess the child. So I can only say that capacity building of faculty has to be done for digital education. It is really needed. How a professor will record his lecture And the lecture is not only to be recorded, it has to be made in such a way that how you'll be doing assessment of a child who's sitting at home and seeing your video. Because through that video only he is trying to learn those skills that you are trying to teach him in the labs or in the classrooms. Probably he doesn't have that equipment in front of him. Then virtual labs have to be accessed. Every university have to have a virtual lab, has to have access to simulation labs all across the globe. I was probably seeing one nuclear lab which is virtually accessible, which is present abroad. Right now, I'm not able to recall the country, because setting up a nuclear lab is it needs a very hefty amount. But you can, with the help of digitalization, you can virtually access that lab through your own classroom, or probably sitting at home once you acquire their licenses, and you can actually change the parameters and see the nuclear reactions happening. So such is the height. So digitalization of education in COVID era or non-COVID era is really going to help the professors who are there to impart real good education to students. No doubt, I must say that some IT skilled people have to be hired in every education institute, whether it may be a school or whether it may be a higher education institute. And they should be really smart enough. They should have that corporate experience to use the technology and help the professors who are not equipped or not sound with the IT tools. Probably I can give one example that when this COVID era came, some people were giving lectures on Google Meet, which was actually free. Zoom was also free at that time. Free licenses were being used. And probably the teacher was not equipped to use these platforms, and some illicit material was being shared by other students on the screens. I was hearing that in news from everywhere, that some student is writing silly comment or maybe writing it on the screen. The screen has been shared. So, things like this were happening. But when we were doing it in our university, we were really equipped for these things. We made the email IDs on the domain, and once the faculty member allows that student to come into his class, then only the student can enter his class. And in that way, you have access and control over the activity of every child in your class. So probably in India, we need to learn to use licensed softwares rather than using free softwares, because free softwares have their own limitations. So once we are talking about digitalization of education, these online platforms are, the smallest requirement that we can think of. And we should acquire certain licenses in order to have full control. And your IT people should be smart enough to have administrative control of these particular tools and technologies. And probably I will also say that even the mass comm department should be there in every institute, who can actually teach the professor how to face a camera, how to react, how to deliver a lecture, in what stance he has to stand, what background he should have. And probably there should be certain people who can guide him why he is making that video lecture. To be honest, we had a very good team. We spent lakhs of rupees to train our professors at HCT University to create certain videos which you can access at the YouTube channel also of our university. We have created more than 6,600 video lectures to impart education. And I feel that, yes, there was a reluctancy at the initial stages where faculty members were not inclined to learn the video skills or the video editing tools, because recording a video and then editing a tool, then the faculty member will say that why this COVID is here, why I have to learn these digital techniques, why I have to edit a video, why should I, record this video, how I have to make it accessible to the student, where to store so that it is not, violating anybody's copyright act, or just making a presentation used to be called digital education just 2 years ago. But no longer, if you're delivering a lecture in a presentation, I call it as a digital lecture. It is just using a technology in the office that has been provided. You just create a PowerPoint and then deliver a lecture. But nowadays, if you see Coursera platforms or maybe Swayam portals, the way they are, using those smart tools by delivering an online lecture or recording it. And prior to that, you have to have a vision that I have to do the assessment of the child also. So once he is going through your lecture, I can give you a very small example, that there are certain provisions in LMS when you're using your, loading your video, then you can see that once he sees a video for say 1 minute, a question will pop up, and probably, the student has to answer that question, and then only the video will move forward. So technology has to be imbibed. I say nowadays every professor will have to behave like an engineer. You have to envision the problem that you're facing, and then assess the child in a proper way. That is what I can say. And few things I've noted down. I can just tell you that licenses, I normally, it is not that I am engaged in any corporate activity, but I will always suggest that use proper licenses, to use the proper tools, and because pirated tools won't help, and things like that, some illicit activity at the part of a student you will not be able to control. So once if you are working with an open mindset, digital education is here to stay. It will help students, it will help poor students also. There won't be any necessity of going abroad, listening to a good professor. We are a medical university, say Hopkins University, very well we know that they were the nation starters in the COVID time, and my professors from medical could interact with them because we were already digitally equipped. So talking about that 1.5 GB is needed, 2 GB is needed, 3 GB is needed, to be honest, to deliver a good online lecture, you need at the most 4 MB speed. That is it. And to be honest, we are using 2 GB bandwidth. And till date, I have not fallen short of anything. And probably because I'm an engineer, I can very well, I can, calculate how much bandwidth we require. So anybody is open to come to our university and have any lecture. Probably even I am speaking right now, so we don't have any problem. So digitalization, internet, etc. That is what I am trying to emphasize is these are ordinary things. Let us speak above that. These are the preliminary requirements. If you have a student doing engineering, then you say that this is +2 mathematics, this geometry, etc. This is a preliminary requirement once you enter. So once we are talking about digital education, all these internet bandwidth, online tools, these Zoom, Google Meet, MS Teams, these are basic things now. No longer, the world after 6 months will say, I know this thing, this is my skill. It is just like accessing a PowerPoint, or Open Office, or this Windows. So because I still remember in 98 when we were learning this Windows XP was there, then people used to say, write down in their resume, skilled in computation, this skill to type on computer or something like that. Nowadays, every Tom, Dick, Harry knows that if you're coming from +2 school, also you'll be knowing how to use a PowerPoint tool, or maybe Office, or maybe seeing a computer. So like this, what I'm trying to say indirectly is that this digital education will become part of our life. Every faculty member will have to learn these techniques of delivering a lecture online, or maybe creating a smart, accessible module of his own lectures, or maybe course, or maybe the program. The entire modules will have to be uploaded on the LMS stage by stage. A student, you will see that he will access to one module and then go to the second module after clearing exams of first module. Online proctoring will become common, and though we are facing certain issues in technology, I still know that many students are still able to skip off these proctoring tools and still able to copy from other students. They keep the mobile at a stage where this camera from your laptop won't be able to capture that. So there are certain limitations in technology. Yes, I perfectly agree with that. But with passage of time, all these hindrances will be removed. And I'm telling you still now that hybrid education will be the talk of the future, whereby student will come only and only once he feels the need that, yes, I am coming to the class and I am gaining something. And if he feels that, yes, he's not gaining anything, He will say, sir, I will access your class online only from my home. And parallelly, student will do 2 or 3 degree programs for their skilling, and they will like to access to the classes worldwide, whereby they can enhance their skills, their corporate readiness programs will be there, whereby the corporate will lay down that these skills are needed, and students will enhance those skills in themselves. And believe me, the generations that we are teaching now, they're very much focused. They know how to utilize the time, and digital education will really help those people who value time. So they can actually, get those skills from different universities, and NEB on the floor, whereby students can drop out after 1 year, maybe 2 years, go to other university. Digital education is really going to help. They will select certain subjects from different universities, and they will make a course of their own, and they complete their degree credits. And that is what I have to say. So digital education is there to stay, and digital tools need to be taught. Every university, every higher education needs to have a department whereby when you have a new faculty member who is just coming from his first PhD and coming down to your institution for teaching, he should be taught for these digital tools first, and then allowed to move into the classes. The different pedagogies will come down. Digital education, the biggest drawback that it will have is the emotional connect. And I normally speak from different diocese that, this emotional connect has to be there. So for that, you can force the child for rather than 75% of the attendance, for 30% of the attendance, so that he comes 30% offline, and then you can meet him and connect to him, realize what his needs are. So that is how things will go. So I thank FELA for giving me an opportunity. There is endless things which I can talk about digital education, because I've been working upon this since last 2 years. Every nitty gritty I've looked into. But believe me, things are not very simple, as I've said. And because coming out of the conventional board and teaching the faculty members who are at the age of 40 and 50, who have taught almost 24 years and 35 years, they're very much reluctant to learning to those technological techniques. And every university will face that. But yes, this is a change over time, and times are like this when new innovations come up. And may God bless us with good health and spirits. So thank you very much.